have a dream, oh, I have a dream. Red, white, and blue, fly free, fly free. I believe, oh, I believe. Will you dream with me?
Good morning, everyone out there. Welcome to Changing Times. This is Wednesday, December the 29th. I hope everyone had a great Christmas. I know that we all did here and extremely blessed. And we've got New Year's coming up and we're to start a new year. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. We've got a great lineup here. We could actually spend 24 hours talking on this and we would still not get done. We're going to be talking about some of the significant things that happened in 21. And we're going to try to keep it positive, but I will be honest with you right now. It's almost impossible to keep everything positive that happened, but we want to make sure that we do mention some important things in 21. And then we're going to talk about predictions of 22. You know, only God knows basically what's going to happen in 22, but we do have some pretty good forecasts and things like that. And so we're going to talk about that. I am Lynn Morris.
And I'm Don Blackard.
And Don, we are on week number 39. How about that?
Wow.
So, you know, next year in 22, we can complete a whole year and we'll do 52 weeks. But we've done 39 now as of today. So we were really pleased to have you. So we're on the Acts Media Group. We're a part of Acts Ministry. We've got all volunteers. Everybody is a volunteer, including our CEO. And so it's an awesome organization. And Matt Pearson is our engineer, and he's a volunteer. And I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and kind of get started because sometimes we'll talk about how you can get a hold of us, and we'll do that maybe again next Wednesday. But I want to kind of make sure that we have plenty of time, and we have Dr. Mary Byrne. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning.
So
thanks for having me. Happy New Year.
Well, thank you very much. Looking forward to having a meeting with you on the board, and a very good thing going on. And I know something happened in the first Saturday in February that we'll talk about later on if we run out of time today, because it's really important. And so I do know there's something happening. And Representative Curtis Trent.
Good morning.
I tell you what, and Curtis and I, we worked together, I think, was it 4 years?
Yeah, we served together for 4 years.
Yeah. And you know what? You're a lot younger than I am. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot from you too. You're an attorney, and I don't always like every attorney. So if I offend you,
no, I just hope folks don't hold that against me.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. I don't want to offend you because I don't want to offend some of the attorneys out there maybe watching. We've got people watching all over the United States and the world today, and we thank everyone for watching us. And be sure and share this show with other people. You can come back and watch it. But no, some of the attorneys I worked with, I that's all I want to say. So anyway, but we got a good one today. So Don, did you have any opening thoughts that you want to talk about, your thoughts or anything? I think we'll switch to Mary first and talk about education. But
the big one was, you asked me looking back at 2021 and what I thought there with good news. And so, the real big thing that I came to is that people have realized that there's a big disinformation system that goes out and that they've had to really go through that and filter it. And so I think people are getting really good at analyzing information for themselves, and they're taking charge of that. They're not just, taking in whatever input is coming in. They're really deciphering that and making decisions that's best for their family. And, we were talking that's really trickling into education. So Dr. Mary, do you want to talk about how that's moving into education with people taking control and analyzing information?
Yes, a lot of the pundits credit the COVID pandemic and the learning from home as being the vehicle for parents becoming more aware of what was being taught to their kids. And increasingly, they began to analyze the content of what they saw coming through on those laptops and comparing it to what their expectations were for education, the education they had, the education they expected for their children to qualify for moving on in education after K-12. And they found this huge gap between what was happening and what they were expecting. So there's been a huge increase in homeschooling all across the country and also in Missouri, because parents, if you want to define local control as parent supervised education, then that was the most effective way of ensuring parent supervision. The next thing the next level then is local control of your school district. And they were coming to find out that the talk about local control was just that. It was a PR talk, because there is no local control. There's a lot of money coming from the federal government to steer local school districts to implement particular policies. That became very obvious with the COVID money that came through in terms of school districts being required to offer the Zoom learning or impose masking mandates, because some of this money from the feds were tied to the agreement to enforce CDC guidelines of masking and to promote, vaccines and this sort of thing. But parents had the opportunity, with the growth of alternative news sites through Rumble and BitChute, that weren't controlled, by Google and Facebook, to get information that was out of the mainstream. And yes, they were analyzing that information rather than deferring to what mainstream wanted to tell them. And so I think that what you're seeing is a great awakening, and it's starting in the families. And I think you're going to see that continue in 2022.
Absolutely.
And you're going to see the demise of this global and federal control of education. I think the power is going to return back to local control. It's going to take some time, but you're going to see that continue through 2022.
Yes. Well, I would like to give an example of something that I just saw in our school district, which my son goes to a phenomenal school in Christian County. He goes to Nixa. And something that I saw that was really interesting was there was a group that was created with some moms using social media.
Yes.
And they were addressing certain literature that was being circulated within the Nixa schools. What I liked is that Nixa schools stepped up to listen to these parents. They reviewed everything that was put on the table. But the interesting part was a book hadn't been challenged in 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a bunch of books that were getting challenged, and they worked it out. But it was the parents stepping up and saying, no, that does not fit what we should be doing in the school system.
Yeah, parents had been conditioned to trust the experts. And to this day, you'll see notable figures like Nicole Hannah-Jones saying, well, you should trust the experts. And parents are responding by saying, no, excuse me. And I think you're going to see an increase in voter turnout for your April elections or your spring elections throughout the country, because that's where the school boards are typically elected. And you're going to see huge turnovers. Not that turning over your school board will solve this situation. You got to solve it at the state level. So parents are going to have to expand their reach, focus on your local school board, but know that this is coming down from your state departments of ed, which are being influenced by Washington, D.C. So your work will not be done for a while, and you're going to have to become savvy about how you deal with your state legislator, which is why I'm so happy that Curtis is here.
Well, and that's right, Mary. The public is going to have to be more engaged on this for a longer period of time. We need a sustained effort to try to get some of these things under control. But transparency is an important part of that.
Yes.
The public really needs to know what is going on in the schools, which is, was always supposed to be a non-political activity, and many school board elections are non-political. But what parents have seen as they get into these into the curriculum, they see what's come down from the national curriculum companies, is that the curriculum has been politicized.
Yes.
In like a very particular one direction bent. And it's not good from a conservative perspective. It's not good from a traditional religious perspective, and that's not what we want taxpayer dollars being used for. We're fine trusting the experts if they're truly non-political experts. What we're not fine with is trusting folks who have a very particular ideological agenda, and they're trying to put it on to kids.
Speaking of ideological agendas, when the federal government becomes the controlling force in education, the influence of the ideology that's brought into the White House becomes the dominant ideology, and that is absolutely wrong. Which is why I believe that even if the state can't move fast enough to mitigate the influence of the leftist influence of the federal government, parents are going to take control of that and say, you know what, I don't have to send my kid to that school.
Right, and empowering parents is a great way to do that. If parents have more options to take their kids out of school, to control the curriculum and the material that they're exposed to me that is good from a child standpoint. It's also good from an institutional standpoint, because anytime the schools have to worry about losing students, that creates a financial incentive for them to be more responsive to parental concerns.
That's right. So what you're going to see is a continued unraveling of what we used to depend on as the institutions that stabilize society. And it's going to unravel, I think, in a positive way, because it'll return the focus to the family and the local community.
Yeah, I think so. And, we're going to kind of wrap up this topic. We could, like I say, talk about it, that one topic for 24 hours.
Yes.
But one of the good things that's going to come out of all this, I believe, is that we're going to see a lot of good people in all 50 states, all over this country, deciding that they've either seen enough or they've heard enough or learned enough that they want to be part of that, making the choice for their children and making the choice on all kinds of things. So you could run for the school board, you could run for maybe a board position. So like down in Christian County, the Christian County Health Department, they have a separate board that runs the health department, not the commissioner's office, but the board, and OCAC and Missouri Extension. So every state probably has an extension, and they have board members that are elected. And so people need to get involved. Now's the time. 22 is the time from now on for the rest of your life, our lives. I'm just urging everyone all over this country to get involved. It starts locally. The best that we can do is to help locally.
Right.
And then we'll go on up into the state, like Representative Trent. Then we'll go on up into the federal. But our most help that we can do our country right now and our families is help local, be involved.
So one last thing on that, and then I know we got to move topics or we're going to be stuck on this one, but you guys can jog my memory, but Missouri did something this year that they broke away and took control of curriculum. Am I correct that there was something that happened at our state?
Well, there was an education savings account bill, which was kind of almost a pilot program level of funding, and it was primarily aimed towards students who have special needs, some kind of learning disability, but does provide a way to fund a education savings account that could be used by parents and students to seek alternative education opportunities.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think school choice is going to be a big topic, continue to be a big topic, continue to grow. Charter schools, too, will continue to grow. So there's so much. And the basic bottom line is we just want our children educated. We want them to be able to compete against all the other people in the world, not just the people in the United States, but we want our people, our kids, to be smarter than anybody else.
And I don't think it's just economics or competitiveness in business. I think that it is our value system as Americans, which is what public school was put in place to do,
Right.
is to transfer that tradition of what it meant to be American, what exceptionalism was in protecting the rights and liberties of individuals versus as free citizens versus becoming subjects of the state. And I think that conversation is going to continue. and that the purpose of public schools will continue to be evaluated so that the legislature understands it's got to have more oversight over your departments of ed.
Right. I agree. Well, the next question, I'm going to turn to you, Curtis Trent. So Representative Trent, we're going to put on your hat because I know you're running for state senator for Eric Burleson's place, who's now running for U.S. Congress. And so people are just kind of moving on. And so I'm really proud that you're doing that. So in Republic, Missouri, which is one of your big district towns, they've got a lot of growth going on over there. So what's going on over there?
Oh, they've had a couple of major developments, which I think speaks highly of the strength of that community and the leadership that they have there. They had a big Amazon plant move in, which anytime you have a facility of that size, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of help from the city to get all the permits and everything that you need in order to do those kind of facilities. So I think that speaks well of how nimble the city is. And the Convoy of Hope, which of course does a lot of good around the country and around the world, has built a new major facility out there as well that they use as their headquarters and one of their distribution points. So both in business and philanthropy, Republic is really putting itself on the map really big this year.
And Christian County, Curtis, is the fastest growing county, one of the fastest growing counties in the entire state.
Oh, yeah.
And between Ozark and Nixa and the rest of the Christian County area encompasses a large part of your group. So in Springfield, third largest city in the state of Missouri, for the people listening, Springfield's third largest. And interesting enough, I just want people to know, most people maybe knows in Missouri, I don't know, but Kansas City now is the largest city in the state of Missouri, not St. Louis. St. Louis used to be the largest city. So we've had all these migration changes and people moving in and out. I noticed yesterday, guys, that I was having to work in the commission office downstairs because our executive assistant was sick yesterday. And so I was just asking people as they went by, because a lot of people are still paying their taxes. So I was praying for them and feeling sorry for them because I've already paid mine and it was a lot of money. And so I'd ask them, I just wanted to ask them, where are you from? How long you lived in Ozark, Christian County? And I had 8 people yesterday tell me they came from California in the last 10 years. Some of them 2 years, 1 year, 4 years, one was 8 years. Yeah. And then I asked them, there was some from Iowa, Kansas, but interesting enough, California was the state that was, and they lost population for the first time, I think.
That was interesting.
Enough to lose a seat.
Newsom wanted to be able to tax people that left California.
Oh, well, that's why they left.
That's why they left.
You're not going to tax them.
Yes. And I have new neighbors that have arrived from California, and I am not shy about saying, remember why you came here and vote accordingly.
Well, I think, you know what? I think a lot of the people will. I think the people who are leaving absolutely will be good neighbors of ours in Missouri because there was a reason why they left.
That's right.
That's right. Money is mobile, and if you create a political jurisdiction, whether it's a state or an entire country, that's too hostile to people's ability to earn money, to engage in the business of their choice, and keep the fruits of their labor, they're just going to leave, and they're going to take their money with them. So making sure that our state is in our area is a good economic environment for people to work in is really important. And I think that's why you've seen so much growth down here in Southwest Missouri. Low cost of living, cheap energy, strong, friendly culture of people. It's a really desirable place to come and raise a family and retire and have a good life.
Well, that strong, friendly culture is because you're in the Bible Belt.
That's right.
Yes, so don't forget that.
Yes.
We love to wave our freedom flag around here.
That's right. Right. And for veterans, there's so many veterans in our country, and we thank every person for serving and their family members, keeping the house going while your family members were serving. But I tell you what, down in Branson, Missouri, they have so many veterans events all over Southwest Missouri and Missouri. We are veteran friendly and family friendly. So down at Silverwater City and Branson, all the activities all over Lake of the Ozarks and every place you can do that. Hey, let's switch gears and let's talk about, because this is something really important, and we'll try to keep this positive too. In 22, we're going to have some major elections. We got the primaries in August, and then we've got the general elections in November. But in Missouri, so Curtis, this is what, and then Mary, you can chime in. But so as a state representative right now, and you're going to be running for U.S. Senate and hopefully winning that. In Missouri, we almost passed a voter bill, a voting rights bill last year, and it failed the last day of Senate. What I'm kind of predicting 22 now. So what are we going to do in 22 to make sure that all elections are fair and we can believe in them?
Well, I think there's several things that we can do and should do. Having a photo identification for voters, I think, is very important to make sure the person casting the ballot is the one who's legally entitled to cast that ballot. I think having paper ballots, so you have a physical trail of what has been done, something that's verifiable, reproducible. And to the extent that we have any kind of vote counting machines, they need to be air gapped, which means not connected to the internet in any way. And they need to be not proprietary. So there needs to be an ability for the election authority, Secretary of State, to take those machines apart, verify that they are in fact just a counting machine, that no tampering has occurred.
And to conduct audits.
Right, and to be able to conduct audits as well. And having the paper trail makes that possible in order to do that. And in those ways, I think you can make it prohibitively difficult to cheat at any kind of scale. You can verify what has happened, and that will give the public a lot more confidence that the elections are being done fairly, because the public confidence is what really matters. People won't come out and vote if they don't have confidence that the election is fair. And our system of government, we derive the just powers of the government from the consent of the governed. And if the public is not confident in the fairness of the election, then I don't see how you can have any consent of the governed.
Well, we're very lucky in the state of Missouri because our Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft, is a strong proponent of making sure that we have fair elections. And he's going to be working with all the legislators this next year and trying to pass something that just makes sure that we've got the integrity of the voting system in place in Missouri.
And it needs to happen in this legislative session to prepare for November 2022.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. And
to prepare for the future, because you won't always have, a Secretary of State as experienced and knowledgeable and diligent about this as Secretary Ashcroft.
Well, very good. So we kind of talked that over. We could, again, talk about that all day. But yeah, I think Matt told me it's time to do our sponsors. And so we're going to do our sponsors. We are very proud. Don and I are very proud to have two sponsors so far. And we've got 2 or 3 more working. They're just very close to signing an agreement for us for this coming year, 22. Our goal was to have 25 where we can buy some more equipment, where we can have phones where people can call in from all over the country and the world, call in live to talk to our guest today and to talk to Don and I. It costs money to do all these things. And so we are trying to get sponsors to be able to do all that. But our first sponsor that signed on with us was Brad Pistow. He's a certified fiduciary financial planner right in Ozark, Missouri, Trinity Insurance and Financial Services. And he's got an interesting telephone number because if you call this number, he's going to send you a book, a free book. And you don't have to live in Missouri. He's licensed in several states, and so he can help you. But if you'll call 417-581-9222, 581-9222, Lisa will answer the phone. Our Hunter, his son, he's the 3rd generation financial planner. He specializes in Medicare, insurance, and things like that. So you can, if you want to worry about trying to retire, it's never too early to start thinking about retirement, especially now with inflation. I'm sure we'll be talking about inflation after the second half of the show starts. I tell you what, I trust him so much that I'm proud to have him as a sponsor, but I put all my money. So Jan and I have put all our retirement money in 5 different accounts that he takes care of for us. And so I would not recommend him if I didn't believe. He's got 2 books, Safe Money Matters, Bulletproof, and they're both #1 best-selling books on Amazon. And so I think that's enough to tell you that he knows what he's doing. Our second sponsor, I've also bought my last 2 cars from. So again, I deal with them. I've had service with them. I absolutely know that they're the best, and that's Youngblood Motor Group. They're located at 3525 South Campbell in Springfield, Missouri. Their phone number is 417-882-3838. 43 years. I had to correct myself because I thought it was 37 years. It's 43 years that they have been family-owned car dealership in Southwest Missouri. That's a long time. And the neatest thing that I think they do is you don't have to go, because like this weekend it's going to get down to 10 or 11 degrees, 15 degrees right here in Springfield, Missouri. We're going to get our first winter, taste of winter this weekend. And you don't have to go to the dealership. You don't have to go to the parking lot and walk around and have the wind blow on you. You can do it from the comfort of your home, and you can go on the line and buy a car, trade in your car, do everything you need to do, get your payments, all the work done. You can do it online. Then they'll bring the car to your driveway. They'll park it, and you get to keep it for 72 hours. You can keep it up to 72 hours, and you put your wife in her position. You put the kids where they need to be, put the dog where they need to be. You can put the luggage in the back. You can kick the tires. You can drive around the block. You can drive it to the grocery store. Do whatever you want to do. If that car doesn't meet your needs, then they'll bring you another car. There's no other dealer in Southwest Missouri that does that. So Youngblood Motor Group, I'm telling you what, I am proud, and Don is proud to have them as sponsors, and we'll have at least three more sponsors very soon that will be the same quality as these guys. And so that's what makes our show really great, along with guests like you guys. So Don, what's another topic that we want to talk about?
Well, there's so many. Real estate, I work with a lot of real estate agents that are friends of mine, and it has been just a doozy of a year to be in real estate. I think you've got to be on your toes and, more than full time if you're a real estate agent. But, it's really good to own a home in Christian County. I bought my house 17 years ago when I came back from Iraq, bought the little old farmhouse in the neighborhood, and it's really surprising to see what my house is worth, but you'd have to pay me really well to get me to move out of Christian County. So, just if anybody wants to talk about the home prices and, they're expected to still increase, I think that's because we're kind of a gold mine around here. We're lower than everywhere else really in the country. We have a lot to offer with our schools and community and everything, but it's really put people in a pickle if they want to move. And I think some people have realized if they are financially able, they almost have to own 2 homes right now. One that they can wait in while they're selling the other one. And, with the interest rates, it's kind of scary because they've been at an all-time low, but we know they're going to go up. And so, one thing I encourage people to do if they haven't looked at refinancing, at least look into it.
Right now.
Yeah,
right
look into it right now, because it may make sense for you, even if you're thinking that you don't qualify. But, the housing market is just very scary time for some people to be in right now. So if anybody wants to just chime in on that for 22 or.
Well, I would say that one of the things I worry about, so like in Republic, what we were talking about, there's so many apartments going in over there. If certain parts of Republic, when you come in, say like from this area where we're at today on the way out in West Kearney, north side of Springfield, and I came in a different way than I normally do off the south side, then you don't even recognize Republic because of all the growth. The problem we have, I think, all over this country is enough low income homes, starter homes, people just getting out of college or maybe just out of high school, but they're getting married and they're getting ready to start a family. And so somehow our country needs to think about starter homes and then apartments. Yes, that's another alternative. You don't have a down payment, but still yet apartment prices are going up too. The rent's going up. And so we definitely got to make sure that we have a place for all of those people to buy their first home and things like that. But and for us, I'll just throw a plug all over this country now. I just want people to listen. If you're not living in Missouri, some of us who have lived in Missouri all our life, we kind of think, we look at our home prices and we think, boy, things are getting to be expensive. You used to be able to buy an acre of land in Ozark, Missouri for less than $100 an acre back in 1977. Today it's $3,000, $5,000, and $7,000, $7,500 an acre here in Missouri. But the people I talked to from California yesterday, everybody today, if you live in California, some of these very high cost states, there's several of them out there. You know what? We are still a bargain. People come here and they go, oh my gosh, I can buy a lot bigger home for a lot less money. I can buy more land and things like that. And I think that's why we're seeing so many people in Missouri coming to Missouri because from other places, because we're still just a bargain compared to other places.
We are, and it is the existing housing that is going to continue to increase in value, although I think at a slower rate. And part of that reason is the supply chain disruption, that the building of new first starter homes is going to be disrupted because of that supply chain.
Right.
And so, people coming to, well, I'll just explain from my family history. It was up to the families to support the next generation. And so there was a period of time where newly married couples would live with the parents of one of the new married couple, in order to allow them to get the down payment for the new house. And I think it was economically advantageous for the government and for corporations that sold things like furniture and the equipment to supply a house. It was advantageous for them to say every couple or every new single adult needs a new housing situation. But that's going to collapse. And you're going to find more people living together again.
Absolutely.
And and for a number of reasons, it may feel painful because it's a financial reason rather than a choice. But I think what you're going to see is a revival of the family.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, and that'll be beneficial in ways that aren't economic. I mean, just think how much better childcare you get if it's grandma taking care of the kid instead of a corporate entity.
That's right.
So, and just think of all the acculturation, the values, the family traditions,
the storytelling.
All the things that are passed down if families are close together and spend time with each other and support each other. And as we become an increasingly atomized society, a lot of that has been lost. And that's the strength of the social fabric. When de Tocqueville toured America, shortly after the founding, and talked about the strength of our communities and our local civic strength, that the communities were really tightly knit together. It's because they were just a few families who knew each other and grew up around each other, supported each other, and we've lost that to our own detriment. And I think that to the extent that economic conditions help recreate that, that was the structure of society that created the prosperity and the strength that we enjoy today, and we've got to recreate it if we want to maintain
de
that
Tocqueville
strength.
Also said it was your faith-based culture,
right? Oh, absolutely. Like the community church, the religious unity was a big part of that, and that was the organizing principle of our society, of our country, was a religious foundation.
I recently read an article saying that China had been doing an assessment. Their Academy of Social Studies had been doing an assessment of American culture, trying to find its weak points. And what they found was the strength of American society was the Christian faith.
Yeah.
And so what do they, if you're going to attack America, you have to attack the churches, because that's the foundation of the moral fiber. And I would have to say that our enemies have been very successful in the culture wars for doing that.
Yeah, and it's not something that's just started recently. This was a feature of the Cold War. This has been a feature of kind of the conflict for a long time now, that there's an attempt to secularize the country, to discredit religious institutions and discredit religious principles that have animated the country. And you know, our founders were a tremendously religious group of people, and they understood that you can't exercise the full panoply of freedoms that they intended for us to exercise if you're not self-disciplining, you're not self-governing, in the sense that you govern yourself, and religion is what enables people to do that. Your religious zeal, your understanding of the Bible supplies from within you the discipline that no external force, no government force is having to supply. America can't enforce its laws across a nation of 300 million people spanning an entire continent if none of the people believe in those laws or self-enforce them. And nobody, you know, we've made things illegal like murder and theft, not because you know, they didn't become wrong because we made them illegal. We made them illegal because they're wrong.
Right.
And we know they're wrong because God has told us that they're wrong.
Well, and that's what's interesting about the biblical worldview, whether
Yes.
it's the Old Testament or the New Testament. The point is that equality of all people is from the Bible.
Yes,
with
it's
God as the head,
it's
and
a
all people
spiritual equality.
It is a spiritual equality, so that
We're
you can
all equal as souls.
You can understand the attack on the Christian or the biblical worldview by tyrants who need to control power, because
You're right.
they don't want to be equal. They
No.
want to be, you know, more powerful
Well, some to be
than.
more equal than others.
And that's why you see, you know, the attack of Marxism on religion.
Hey, guys,
Yeah.
I'll tell you something that I mean, what you're saying is exactly right on. It's spot on. And I'll tell you a prediction that not only I know Don, I know other Christian leaders are going to make this prediction for 22. I believe that we're going to get back, and we're talking about how the family is going to be more
Yes.
powerful. I think the employee is going to be more powerful.
Yeah.
He's going to have more, he or she's going to have more say-so in the jobs in the future. There's 22,000 jobs
That's
open
right.
right now in the United States. There's supposed to be 34,000 jobs in 22. Then all of a sudden, a lot of people are going to take jobs. They're going to take jobs. They may be different jobs, but they're going to take it. But they're going to be a different, more empowered employee. But let's go back to church. I believe that there's going to be a red hot revival.
Me too.
Mhm.
Amen.
Right here in this
Mhm,
country,
mhm.
right here in this country.
I think that's where this was going.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's right.
That's why I wanted to cut in, because I'm telling you, John and Beth Wilson, people that just great people of the Lord that was on our show that owns
Light the way.
Light the Way Ministries. They've always had outdoor, so they do things outside the church walls. Okay, and they've had crowds up to 50,000 people in Rogersville and all over the area, and so this summer they're actually not going to be in Rogersville. That land has been bought by somebody else. They're going to be at the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds. They've got the entire fairgrounds for Light the Way. And so Crowder.
Yes, praise the Lord.
Yeah. And so that's just example. I know what my church, the largest church in the state of Missouri, James River, it's talking about revival. Your church is talking about revival.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I believe that in small towns, large towns throughout the country, not just in Missouri where we're from, all over the country, I believe that people are going to be sucked into a tremendous positive revival and understanding where our roots came from. That's why the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, everything that we have, our founding fathers gave us, they were smart men. They were very smart men, but they were inspired by God.
Yes.
Well,
They couldn't stand that long.
I'd
Yeah,
like to make a
okay.
plug for a new documentary I just saw.
Okay.
It's called Enemies Within the Church. It was produced by a team with Trevor Loudon, who is from New Zealand and came to America to warn Americans about what Marxism has done to all institutions. But this particular documentary focuses on the infiltration into the church. And it is eye-opening with the history of how that secularism creeped into the church and where we are today and why you see such dissension within denominations.
Well, and it hasn't just been the church. The left has infiltrated. They've had a long march through all the institutions.
Antonio Gramsci,
yes.
That's right.
And people have lost faith in those institutions because they see that they no longer serve the purpose that they were founded for, whether it was a secular or religious purpose, but instead they serve a leftist purpose. And so their credibility declines. But where, I think where the strength of men fail in all these things, the strength of God doesn't fail. And people will turn back to the original sources, back to the Bible, back to their community and their family, because those are the things that won't fail them in times of trouble.
That's right.
So, Mary, let me ask you a question. So, you might have mentioned that in some of the information you sent Don and I, but do you believe that the ministers, the churches today, starting this next year, do you think that that they will not only teach the Bible, the foundations? You gotta understand the foundations. You got to understand everything about the Bible first. I understand that. And that would work better if you take your children to church when they're young and they learn the foundation. Okay.
Yeah. And just read the Bible to them at home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Learn the basics.
Yes.
But now after the basics, there's something else going on today because this world is definitely changing times. That's why we named this show. Whether you like it or you don't like it, it is changing, and it's going to continue to change. And it seems like it's changing faster and faster. Are the ministers are the important people that people trust because they go there every Wednesday, they go there every Sunday, and they're very faithful? Are they going to start hearing about not just the Bible, but what's going on in this country?
I think the members of the congregation are going to start talking with their feet. I think churches are going to respond because the congregation isn't going to listen to the social justice Marxist message anymore. They know what the message of salvation is. If they're reading the scriptures, they know what God's plan was for liberty if they're reading the scriptures. And they know that only a virtuous people aligned to the laws of God can survive as a free people. And so they will march with their feet, and you'll see churches close, but new churches open.
And I think people are beginning to realize that there's a misunderstanding. We were beat over the head with separation of church and state for our entire lives. And the founders did talk about that, but it was more of a let's protect the church from being corrupted by the state, and less of a let's protect the state from religious influence.
Don't
because
forget, they were leaving England.
Yeah,
the king was the head of church and the head of state, and Elizabeth still is today.
Yeah, and so they viewed government involvement in the church as a problem, but they did not view church involvement in government as a problem at all. In fact, that was part of the solution. In a lot of the early states, the colonies that became states, up until even in the 1800s, they had a lot of religious involvement, including sometimes even direct financial assistance.
And once again, it's the progressives changing the narrative about what that phrase meant.
Yes, that history got rewritten about 100 years ago or so, and people are rediscovering that maybe taking the faith, taking the church out of the state has been a disastrous result. It turns out the thousands of year old handbook on how to live and how to prosper is a really good handbook to have on the desk and to thumb through every now and then.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How about every day?
Yes.
Well, I would just like to say here at Acts Ministry, we're all about unity in the Holy Spirit. And I think we're going to see people following the voice of the Holy Spirit more into 22. And I think we're going to be the church outside the walls. I think the Christians are going to step up and they're going to be that church. If the Lord speaks to them that they need to take a food basket over to somebody, they're going to take that and then they're going to get a front row seat where they realize, that person really needed it. I did the right thing. And so I think personal accountability. And then I get to preach this Sunday at 10:30 at Northside Assemblies of God. And I'm going to be preaching on being spiritually fit. You know, a lot of people go into the new year talking about fitness, but really, if you're not flexing those spiritual muscles,
right.
then you are not prepared for what's coming in 22.
Well, I gave up on physical fitness, so spiritual fitness is the only aspiration I've got at this point.
Yeah, you know what? I tell you what, I think it's more important to be spiritually fit. You know, when I was a state rep for 8 years and 4 years with you, I saw people that actually Gary from I was trying to think what his last name was, representative from Kansas City area, Lee Summit or something like that. He fell off of his you can't tell I don't exercise. His treadmill. He fell off his treadmill while we're all eating breakfast one morning before we went to session, and he's came in there all bloody. I'm eating with two female state reps and 2 state reps. There's 5 of us, and we're trying to eat breakfast. And he comes to me because I'm a pharmacist. He thinks I'm going to bandage him up and stuff like that. And then I've known 2 people that prominent people in Springfield that died from working out. They were working out and they both died. And I'm thinking, man, that's just too dangerous. You got to get in shape before you start to work out. But hey, we had a great show today. We hope that you enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to 22, aren't you?
Have a happy new year and be the change.
Happy New Year. Thanks for letting me be on.
Be the difference maker. That's 2 difference makers today, too. We'll see you next year.
Can I get a hoorah from a patriot like me? Can I get a